Chestnut, and he was between Self-Master and Thoreau. What's that? Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Union, which is being held pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Law, C-231, Laws of New Jersey, dated 1975. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the local Source and/or the Star Ledger, the two newspapers of record, and notice has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building adjacent to the municipal clerk's office. Roll call.
Mr. Wiley.
Here.
Ms. Martins.
Here.
Mr. Vegana.
Present.
Ms. Scott.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. McNeil.
Here.
Mr. Graves.
Here.
Ms. Ricketts.
Here.
Mr. Champion.
Here. There being a quorum present, this meeting is now declared open. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes from September the 11th. May I have a motion and a second?
What day was that? September, you say?
September 11th.
I move that the meeting minutes of September 11 be approved as written and dispense with their reading.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Mr. Manguso, are there any communications?
Mr. Chairman, there are no communications.
Continuing with tonight's meeting, our first order of business will be the adoption of a resolution for calendar number 3443, Trademark Signs LLC, located at 2255 Springfield Avenue, Block 4914, Lot 10.03, Burlington signage. At this time, board members, you've all had a chance to read the resolution. Are there any board members that would like to comment, make changes or modifications to the resolution as it has been written? Hearing none, may I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I move that this board adopt the resolution as written and as accurately memorialized in the previous findings of this board.
Second.
Okay. Our next
Mr.
order of
Wiley.
business.
Roll call.
Yep.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
Ms. Martins.
Yes.
Mr. Vegana.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. McNeil.
Here. Yes.
Mr. Graves.
Yes.
And Mr. Champion.
Yes, our next order of business is also adoption of a resolution for calendar number 3442, RD Management LLC, located at 2395 Springfield Avenue, Block 4607, Lot 2.
Mr. Champion, that's what we just,
No, I made a mistake.
okay.
I did trademark signs. So it will be the adoption of a resolution for calendar number 3442, RD Management LLC, located at 2395 Springfield Avenue, Block 4607, Lot 2. It was for the conversion of the manager's office and 12 storage units, which would be converted into 2-bedroom apartments. Board members, you've all had a chance to read the resolution. At this time, are there any members that would like to comment, make changes or modification to the resolution? Hearing none, may I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution as it has been written?
Mr. Chairman, I move that this board adopt the resolution as written and accurately memorialized in the previous findings of this board.
Second motion.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
Ms. Martins.
Yes.
Mr. Vegana.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. McNeil.
Yes.
Mr. Graves.
Yes.
Mr. Champion.
Yes. Our next order of business is calendar number 3444, TNR Holdings LLC, located at 1945 Route 22 West, Block 2911, Lot 1. Applicant wishes to utilize the basement as a training facility for childbirth education courses and the installation of a digital sign. Mr. Hale, would you like to begin?
Good evening, well, it's loud. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. Great to see you all this evening, and thanks for coming out during the holiday season on such a beautiful night. At least it's not cold out. So, again, Stephen Hale representing TNR Holdings LLC. And I would look preparing for this evening and working on the case. It's hard to believe, and I was talking to the chairman, that it was 2017 more before this board for the approval of the medical offices and birthing center. If you recall, this building it's surprising. It's in the residential zone on Route 22 there, but it has been a commercial use for many, many years. I know before the birthing center at TNR took it over, it was Union Plate Glass, which had moved from Morris Avenue, and also combined in there the American Flag Company, and it was vacant and fell into disrepair. And you probably go by there, they did a beautiful job with the building and have a great business at the location. And what they're looking to do as part of this proposal is the basement was storage, but they wanted to do basic educational for mothers and families with expecting children. And it goes hand in hand with the medical offices up on the main floor of the facility. And you'll hear from our testimony, there won't be overlaps. This would be done limited hours on the weekends and maybe a few nights during the week when the medical offices are not open, other than when there's, let's say, a medical emergency, a birth or the like. And so we're going to describe that. There's essentially no change in the footprint of the building. It's just utilization of the lower unit for this educational. And Dr. Nicole Pemberton, who was here in 2017, was scheduled to testify this evening, but she had a little more of a priority. She's helping give birth right now. So we said that we try and cover the operational, but it is pretty straightforward. So, and what we'll do is I'll call upon Mr. Joe Bacci, our engineer, to take us through the site changes. Again, very limited by way of site change. It's essentially utilizing the lower part of the facility. But I'll just give a little bit of an overview. The present facility upstairs operates Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., except on Wednesdays they do have 11 to 7. And again, you'll see that there is adequate parking at the site. There's never an overflow of parking. And then the lower unit, the educational, they will essentially operate perhaps Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays with no conflict. They wouldn't do Wednesday because that's when the facility is open a little bit later in the evening. But again, same number of employees in the upper level, and limited, again, it's more of a classroom setting in the lower level. So what I'd like to do, and we did have the reviews from Collier's, no problem complying with any of those terms and conditions, and we have the fire department. We'll work with the fire department, as we always do, to address any comments that the fire department has. So I'd like to then first call upon Mr. Joseph Bacci to take us through the site plans, existing conditions, and then what's proposed by way of improvements.
Good evening, Mr. Botch. This is Rob Pansul, the Board Attorney. I do know for the record that I marked A1, the application with supporting materials as it was submitted, and I marked A2, the EKA site plan, which consists of 4 pages. There's a 2-page plan, as well as a survey and a fire truck maneuvering sheet. So there's 4 sheets, A1 and A2. Mr. Bacci, can I ask you to swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
And for the record, state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
Joseph Bacci, B-A-C-H-I, with EKA Associates, addressed at 328 Park Ave, Scotch Plains, New Jersey.
Any change in your engineering qualifications when you were last certified as an expert in this board, probably in the last couple of weeks, I believe?
Yeah, no change. Still licensed and in good standing.
Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Bacci, obviously your firm worked on the application in 2017. You're well familiar with the site and the property. If you could take us through existing conditions and then what's proposed by way of improvements to the site. I know it's somewhat limited at this location. It's essentially repurposing the lower unit.
Sure. Starting on sheet 1 of our site plan set, As usual, draw your attention to the zoning map here in the center. You can see the lots roughly triangular in shape. We're bound to the northwest here by Wade Terrace, which is a paper street. It's actually, it's not developed, it's vegetated. And then beyond that, you have town-owned property, which is also vacant and vegetated, and then residential properties on this block here. To the northeast, you have Rosemont Ave North with residential properties across the street there. And then to the south, you have Route 22 with commercial properties across the street from it there. So
Let me just interrupt. One thing I forgot to point out, I appreciate you bringing out the map. Yes, Wade Terrace is in fact a paper street. We're not proposing this time to utilize that at all, but that acts as a nice buffer, and then you have the municipal property. And the other, and our planner will probably touch on it, that last lot if you look at it to our right, that's actually a billboard. So it's not like there's a house on the corner overlooking this business. You got a billboard on that corner, sorry.
Thanks for pointing that out. Yes, the billboard. I'll also touch on, as Mr. Hale mentioned, this is in the residential zone, but it really does fit for a commercial property. You know, with all this frontage on Route 22 here, I think the commercial use fits where it is. I don't think a residential property would fit there at all. So, and it's been working as a commercial use, as we are all aware. We'll go to our survey, just to go over the existing conditions, and again, not much is changing. Total lot area, 29,061 square feet. You see here on the north end of the property of the one-story block building. Again, the footprint of this building is not changing in the proposal. You have multiple entrances, the main entrance being on this corner here that I'm highlighting, and then entrance to the basement in this location to the west, and then to the east, another entrance to the basement, and a quasi kind of loading area here to the northwest. Aside from that, most of the site is parking lot. As you can see, there were a number of variances that were previously approved in the last application. Really, you know, setbacks, we have, sorry, bear with me. They're highlighted nicely in the Collier's report. I'll touch on a few of them. We have the front yard setback on Rosemont Ave, 25 feet required, 14.74 was previously approved, and that's what we're proposing here, no change there. 2.61 setback on Wade Terrace, 12 foot would be required for this side yard. Again, existing and proposed and previously approved is 2.61 feet. Impervious coverage is not changing. We received a variance for 90.8%, not changing. 60 is required. On the previous application, the parking standards have changed a little bit. So 45 parking stalls were required in the last application, and we were approved for 36, so a deficiency of 9. We actually we're proposing, we're keeping the same amount of parking, but there's actually a reduction in the requirement. So we're you know, with the ordinance changing, we are reducing that burden as it relates to the ordinance. So 29 are required, 37 are proposed with EV credits. You know, additionally, no loading space is here. The site works without a loading space. It's been working as such, and that was previously granted. There's a number of, I don't know if you guys want me to go through every single
Well, I think
one,
these are all
these are all-
pre-existing conditions that are not
Yeah,
being
not
intensified
being
or exacerbated by this application.
Yeah, it's highlighted nicely in colors. I can touch on any if you'd like me to, but I don't want to waste your time going through every single
Okay.
one. There's a number of variances. I mentioned the parking lot. In terms of grading, everything, the site gently slopes to Route 22, so any stormwater runoff, it's going to 22. That's going to be the same case in the proposed site with the minimal changes, so no impact to the residents in that regard. And that's essentially it. There's the existing building, the existing parking lot, and that really makes up the site with some limited green areas.
And I think we are you're going to the site plan now.
Yeah, so
Okay.
now I'll go to the site plan. A little busy in here, but if I zoom in, I think you can see. I'll start with the lighting that's kind of jumping off the screen here. So this lighting plan was previously approved. No changes are proposed to that. You can see where I visited the site. The striping has faded a bit, so we'll restripe the parking lot, but again, there's really no change to the parking. It's ADA compliant. We are adding the one make-ready EV space to be compliant with the new EV ordinance. We previously, I don't think I mentioned this, we previously did get approval for 22-foot wide drive aisle. 24 is required. We're keeping it at 22. The main change we are seeking from a site perspective, not relating to the basement of the building, our architect will touch on that. So we are proposing a new sign. I'll show we have the detail of it on the top right here. Oh, sorry. So there is an existing sign there, which we received approval for. There's no offset from the property line against 22. We're leaving it in the same space, but we are planning to install a 97 square foot LED sign there where 20 foot is required. The sign, it's not going to be like a flashing type of sign. And speaking with the client, what they're going to put on the sign is kind of advertising those classes that they're looking to do now. And they'll kind of promote some of the newborns that they've birthed at the center. Nice picture of the baby, name, date of birth, kind of promote their facility. That the fact that they are a birthing center and promote the classes that they're looking to do.
No increase in the size of the sign, though. I think it's just
I think it's a slight increase.
slight, yeah, but very minimal increase.
Yeah, sorry, let me go to
Yeah.
yeah, hold on. It is, yeah, we were approved for 89 square feet previously. It's going to be slightly larger, 97 square feet.
Okay, less than 10 square feet.
Yeah, that really sums up the changes to the plan.
I think we're relocating or addressing the trash. I think
Oh,
we're
yeah,
moving-
thank you, Steve. Yeah, right now, the trash kind of conflicts with that quasi-loading area that I mentioned in this area. So the plan is to relocate the trash to this corner of the site, just put the barrels there, and they'll be, available for pickup right off the street.
And it will be shielded.
And it will be shielded, yes.
Yeah.
Screens appropriately.
Okay. All right.
And
And-
that really sums up this.
Yeah,
the
and you
site
have
changes.
no issues with I think you touched on it, with the Collier's letter dated October 29, 2024?
Yeah, no issues there.
Okay, and as I mentioned, no issues from a site perspective with the comments from the fire department. We'll work with them to address any.
Yeah, I will say we are proposing, they had a concern about being able to access, let me zoom in a little, navigate through the site with these three parking spaces there. Those are being removed, but we are still keeping the same amount of, I think overall we're keeping the same amount of parking with removing those.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Mr. Bocci. I have no further questions at this time.
Are there any board members that would like to question the testimony Mr. Bocci has provided? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony Mr. Bocci has provided? Hearing none, Counselor?
Yes, I'd now like to call upon our architect, David Buckman. Thank you, Mr. Bocci.
Is this, oh yeah, A1, A2?
Yes, okay.
So that's
I go to
A1,
the
here's
next
A2.
Oh, okay.
I'll close mine out so you don't get,
Okay. Thank you.
let me close this out for you.
Now I know twice as much as I knew before.
You're good.
I feel very old right now standing in front of this.
That's why you pick the young people to help with the,
I
Mr.
have the
Buckman,
real drawings here.
can I ask you to swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
And for the record, state and spell your name with your affiliation.
Yes, David Buckman. It's Buckman.
okay, and Mr. Buckman, I know you actually appeared here in 2017, but just briefly, again, confirm your credentials.
Yeah, well, I got my Bachelor's of Architecture in 1985, and started this firm in 1988, a long time ago. I've testified here, I've done a lot of
We'll
work
accept
here.
Mr. Buckman's.
Great. Thank you,
I
Mr.
even
Chair.
lived here.
All right. So, Mr. Buckman, obviously, having worked on the project in 2017, you're well familiar with. If you could take us through, I guess the focus would be on the floor plan for the educational training area in the proposed, in the
Yes.
lower unit.
I sure will. Oh, not so bad. I'm looking at the sheet A2.
And Rob, maybe we could have Mr. Buckman's plans marked as A3.
A3 for the record.
Okay, this is the drawing, it should be the drawing that you guys are looking at, though, that you guys have. Make it a little bigger. All right, so, fairly simple, it's right now a big, large space. It's 1,450 square feet. This, can you see where I'm pointing? Yeah. This is, it's flipped from the site plan you were looking at, but this is the stair coming out of the basement, okay? And so on one side there is a stair, and then on the other side there is a stair. So as an architect, we love that. We have the two means of egress already existing and in good shape. We're adding a bathroom. It'll be handicap accessible. And all these spaces are already currently there. They're all utility spaces. So it leaves this space that I'm circling here as one large space. We simply want to put in new lights and sheetrock outlets, and it's going to be used as open space as for training. As I understand, it will be for people for birthing training, and I think it's being given by the staff, by some of the staff, which is why the hours will be different from when they're open for business, because the staff will be up there. So I have no problems. I've read the, well, you want to ask me?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I've read the reports. I have no problems. And we got today or yesterday, the fire departments, they had 4 issues, and we have no problem. We will certainly go through with the fire department and make sure we meet all the fire safety. We do anyway, but we will sit with them and go over that.
Okay. So there's essentially no change in the upper floor where the medical and birthing facilities are?
That is correct.
And then there's no change in the footprint of the building, it's just repurposing the lower area to provide this ancillary service?
Also correct.
Okay, great. All right, I have no further questions of Mr. Buckman at this time.
Are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Buckman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. What is the space currently being used as now for?
It's all big open. It's not finished, and it's storage.
Any other board members with questions?
I mean, this is a birthing center, sorry.
That's all right, that's right.
It's a birthing center, so it's 24/7. Do you anticipate or have you anticipated any issues when there's a birth or something is going on? You know, Mother Nature has its way of interfering with what we plan on doing. Where there's classes, you got a full class downstairs, and you got a full, center operation upstairs. Do you anticipate any issues with occupancy in the building and
Yeah.
egresses being able to plan?
Good question, but no.
Yeah.
The staff upstairs is separate. There are some, as I understand, who might be doing training, but that's why they do it when they're not open upstairs. And as far as birth, as we see tonight, you never know when it's going to be. It's different. It's different staff.
Yeah, we did discuss, and again, Dr. Pemberton would have been here to explain in more detail, but yeah, we did talk about that in our preparation meetings, and our planner will touch on it a little more, but yeah, generally, the training facility in the lower unit will not conflict with the hours of the medical, but again, if someone needs to come in for a birth, Dr. Pemberton and Camonte explained to us that that's a very limited amount of people. The whole top isn't open. You might have, the nurse, the doctor, and perhaps the mother and father, and that's generally up there. And the lower unit isn't, it's classes. So even if there is, usually people would come in one vehicle if it's a couple that would come for training. So that's a great question. We were thinking of that question.
Personal experience with this center.
Okay. Okay. Although I guess it is, because they do have evening hours on Wednesday night, and this is a Wednesday, that may be, but I know my kids, when they were born, we didn't pick their times. They picked it.
I think the baby tonight knew they were open on Wednesday nights.
That's right, because it's a C-section this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board members? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question Mr. Buckman's testimony? Hearing none, Councilor?
Yes, I'd now like to call upon our professional planner, Mr. Nicholas Graviano.
Good evening, Mr. Graviano. Can I ask you to swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
And for the record, state and spell your name with your affiliation.
Yes, my first name is Nicholas, last name Graviano, G-R-A, V as in Victor, I-A-N-O. I'm a planner and partner with Graviano and Gillis, Architects and Planners, with a business address of 101 Crawford's Corner Road in Holmdel, New Jersey.
And Mr. Graviano, even though
Okay.
I reckon back to when George Petkoff always enjoyed when you gave all your degrees, but
Mr. Graviano has appeared many times before this board. The board will accept his credentials.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chairman.
And Mr. Graviano, obviously, this is a unique piece of property, being on Route 22 and being in the residential zone, yet being a commercial operation for many years. If you could please provide the planning justification for the relief being sought.
All right, I hope I make it through this testimony. I think my grandma is at control of the thermostat here. It's a little toasty, but yes, I would just like to touch on one thing to just answer some of Mr. McNeil's questions. The birthing classes only have 4 people in them at a time. They're by appointment only. There would be a midwife, one of the nurses employed by the facility, and the couple that's giving birth. So it's a very modest operation by appointment only. So it's not like it's a large class operation. It's very modest in size. That, as was stated previously, is outside of normal business hours. So the applicant is before the board this evening requesting an expansion of the previously approved D1 use variance for the medical use at this facility. It relates to a piece of property at Block 2911, Lot 1. I actually was the planner for this application back in 2017. I can't believe time's moved on that quickly, but this is a very rational and modest expansion to the existing medical facility. It's certainly a better use of space than the storage that was previously in the basement. This will go a long way towards educating parents and educating expecting mothers on the duties of child care and the ins and outs of child care. So it certainly is an activity that promotes the public health, safety, morals, and welfare. And as we look at the expansion of the nonconforming use, that's one of the key elements that the applicant must demonstrate. As this board knows and the planning board knows, we have self-storage facilities for a reason. So taking the storage out of this basement, making it a productive use that ties into the use upstairs certainly is of great benefit to the community. As Mr. Bocci indicated, there were numerous variances granted in the 2017 application. The applicant seeks to continue forth all of those previously granted variances except for the ones that were newly created that I'm going to touch on in my testimony. Those variants are listed in section 1.1 to 1.15 of the October 29th, 2024 Collier's letter. So firstly, the applicant is requesting the expansion of nonconforming use. Since that was granted by a D1 use variance, the applicant's request again must meet the D1 variance proofs. So the applicant must demonstrate the positive criteria as well as demonstrate that there'll be no substantial impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance. That's the negative criteria. Looking at the positive criteria, This site is certainly particularly suited for the proposed use. It exists today. This is certainly an accessory activity of the existing commercial use that will go hand in hand with the business that exists today. As we stated in 2017, this is an appropriate location. Mr. Bocci touched on this in his intro. This is a highway location. That's a rational location for a non-residential use. This certainly advances purpose A, the municipal land use law, promotion of public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. The use in its own right does that. I touched on that previously. It also advances purpose G, to provide sufficient space and appropriate location for a variety of commercial uses to meet the needs of New Jersey citizens. And then lastly, it also advances purpose I, a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. I certainly think it's good civic design arrangement to get a more productive use out of that basement square footage. There's certainly no substantial impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance with the modest request for expansion that the applicant's requesting this evening. Moving on to the C variances, the applicant requires a C variance for the maximum sign area, whereas 50 square feet is permitted, 97 square feet is proposed, which is 8 square feet more than which was previously granted in the 2017 approval. The applicant is also requesting variance for the minimum distance from the property line, as well as another variance for the sign area. I've been by this site, dozens of times. It is a site that creeps up on you, so I think, increased signage that's a little bit more visible certainly goes towards promoting public safety, advancing purpose A of the purposes of zoning of the municipal land use law can certainly be granted under the C2 criteria, whereas hardship need not be demonstrated. Then lastly, the applicant is requesting relief for the off-street parking. As Mr. Bocci indicated, the township standards have decreased. When you do the calculation, 39 off-street parking spaces are required, 37 are provided, so that's only a 2-space deficit. So there's certainly not a substantial impairment to the zone plan with the reduced parking requirement. That variance could also be granted under the C2 criteria.
Thank you very much, Mr. Graviano. I have no further questions of Mr. Graviano at this time.
Are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Graviano's testimony? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question Mr. Graviano's testimony? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this application? Hearing none, Mr. Hale, would you like to make a closing remark?
Yes, and again, sorry that Dr. Pemberton couldn't be here, but again, duty calls. So I think, this is a great, as our witnesses have indicated, a great repurposing of this lower portion of the building. It goes hand in hand with what occurs up top, doesn't cause any conflict with the medical up above and the educational below, different times of operation. As we've said, the parking requirements our deficiency has decreased, but there has been no parking issues associated with this facility. It's located on 22. It's been a commercial use for many years. We talk about the sign, it certainly is dwarfed by the large billboard that's one lot over. So I think, and our willingness to work with the fire department, addressing their concerns. So all those reasons, Mr. Chairman and board members, we respectfully request that the relief be granted. So thank you again for your time and coming out during the holiday season on such a beautiful but hot night.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. At this time, we can conference this. Mr. Wiley, would you like to begin?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think, this is a good use for the basement of this building, and the positive criteria outweighs the negative, and I also feel that the parking was just short 2 spaces is not really a big impairment as well, and I think it's appropriate location. I'm gonna vote yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes, I thought it was a very interesting application, interesting concept. I was over here asking my colleague a lot of questions about how this works, but I think it's something real productive for community, and I will also be voting yes.
Mr. McNeil?
I would agree with the statement that was made, that this is a rational expansion of an existing non-conformance, and having a personal interest in this facility, I too will plan to vote yes.
Ms. Martins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The variances have been well justified. The training center is definitely well suited for the space. So I see this as a positive. I will be voting yes.
Ms. Ricketts, was she here?
No, she's the alternate tonight, so she won't be voting, but she did leave the dais.
Okay.
Let me come back to you for 1 second.
Sure. Mr. McNeil, you would like to comment?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, I have no financial interest in this facility. My daughter used the facility some time ago for one of my grandchildren. Just want the record to reflect that.
Okay.
I thought about those words, and it resonated well with me.
No issues there.
Mr. Graves?
I feel it's a positive application. There's no change in the footprint of the building, and I'm supportive of the application.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think the application was well presented. I see no negative issues, and I will also be voting yes.
And Mr. Bentavegna?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the testimony this evening, I feel the variance was justified and the property is well suited for the proposed use, so I'll be voting yes myself.
And as for myself, I feel the building is well suited to support the proposed use of the basement for the child birth education courses and will benefit the public. I also see no problem with the digital sign modifications. I believe the witnesses did a great job. It was a positive application. I too will be voting yes for this application. At this time, may I have a motion and a second to grant the application?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board grant the variance applicable to this application and that council is directed to prepare a resolution consistent with the board's decision.
Roll call?
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Ms. Martins?
Yes.
Mr. Begana?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. McNeil?
Yes.
Mr. Champion?
Yes.
Thank you so much, and Rob?
January 15th, 2025 is the first meeting after the reorg.
15th, you said?
15th.
Great.
First available meeting after the reorg.
Mr. Chairman, there being no business coming before the board, I move that we adjourn.
All in favor? Opposed? So moved.
Thank you all again, and have a safe and happy holiday.